my favorite thing to say is it is what it is, because I can't hop in a time machine and go change what happened to me.
Yeah.
I can't hop in a time machine and go fix that I left my children. I have to accept it, move forward, and know that I'm a better me today because of it, because I learned by my mistakes.
Today on Healthier Me, I'm honored to welcome a woman whose story is powerful, honest, and filled with hope. Donna Clarke. She is the executive director of Emmaus House, a home that welcomes women coming out of jail, prison, and rehab, offering them safety, support, and a true chance to rebuild their lives. After battling substance use for 25 years, she reclaimed her life and now pours that same strength into helping other women rediscover their purpose. Thank you so much, Donna, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I just love doing these podcasts, and I watched yours. And these are just really good, informative, and get the word out there about different areas and different subjects. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this conversation. As I was sharing off camera, Healthier Me, it's all about the stories from people in Saginaw and their journey. So in the last season, it was all about fitness and weight loss stories. And then this season, we said, let's open it up, because what we found out in that first season, every story had a mental health component. And so why not talk about mental health, substance use, maternal and infant health, because these are the factors that are affecting our community.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited that you're here to share your story.
Thank you.
Yes. So before we dive in, what made you say yes to coming on?
There is such a stigma against substance use disorder and mental health. You know, mental health, especially back when I was a kid, you don't talk about it, you know, and you just, you know, it was looked down upon, like you're crazy. You know, and mental health can mean so many different varieties of mental health. And I think, you know, what I see with substance use disorder is people are self-medicating. And, you know, mental health and substance use disorder go hand in hand. It's a dual diagnosis. You know, it was funny because when I got off drugs, I thought, I just have to stop using. There's nothing wrong with me. But boy, was I wrong. There was a lot wrong with me. And it was stuff that was never talked about. And so we need to get rid of the fear of people getting labeled mentally ill when they're not. It's just mental health issues. And there's so much help out there. There's so much help out there right now, and people can't be afraid to talk about it and to go seek help for it instead of self-medicating, which is what a lot of the women I see were doing.
That is powerful. That is powerful. And I'm so excited that you're here to talk about that. And so you kind of mentioned it in your answer, but what is the one thing you hope that people who are listening, what do you want them to walk away with from this conversation?
I want them to walk away with an understanding and less judgment. You know, people out there don't think like once a drug addict, always a drug addict. You know, and that's not the case. People, you know, when the world turns its back on you, and I had felonies and my family was very, very angry with me and nobody believed in me anymore, you don't believe in yourself. You need people to give you a chance, to give forgiveness, and to believe in you again, and love you until you can love yourself again. You need to talk about things. And even people in everyday life who don't have substance use problems, mental health, I think everybody, and I said this on the last podcast, everybody in the world should have a therapist.
I agree.
I do. It's
agree.
that impartial person just to get things out. Mm-hmm. Not that they have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. But when somebody cares enough to listen to where you've been and what you're struggling with, there's healing that goes on at that point. And so we just want people to stop being so afraid to seek help and talk about things. Get it out there. Once you get stuff out, it's so great because I used to be ashamed of my past and I hid everything inside. And, you know, I held a job in my addiction and nobody knew I was a drug addict and I hid everything. Once you get that out and you own it, nobody can hurt you with it anymore. I've accepted my past. I'm not proud of my past at all, but I've accepted that everything I went through got me to where I am today. And I would not be here sitting had I not gone through all those nightmarish things that I went through, prison, in jail, and homelessness. All that brought me to this place where I have an understanding and a forgiveness. And people are people. Nobody's perfect. And everybody has issues, especially us women, because we're emotional beings. And people need guidance. It doesn't mean you're weak or you're crazy because you have a therapist or you need some medication to tone down anxiety or, there's just so many levels of mental health. And what I see at Emmaus House is women were out self-medicating. Yeah. And I would just like to get an awareness out there. There's no shame. There's no shame in telling your story. I beat myself up more than anybody could beat myself up inside here.
Yeah. Yep.
And it feels good today to be healthy. I love what you said, a healthier you,
Yes.
a healthier me today. And it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, I love that, Donna. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Before we dive into this new you, I do want to go back because you said some things, right? The criminal past, hiding the addiction. There's so many layers to that.
So many.
So many. So before we even get into the addiction part, I want to go back to you as a little girl. Who was little Donna before the age of
I'm so glad that you said this because a lot of what happened to little Donna was the reason for all my madness and mess. I grew up in upper middle class, good family. My mom died when I was 8. She died of breast cancer. And my father had 5 little girls. He owned his own business and he wasn't around a lot. And so the abuse came in. I don't want to get graphic because I know inappropriate things went on with me. And I was lost. I just lost my mother, who was my world. And now my father, and he was the only person I had left besides my sisters, but we were all little.
Where do you fall at?
I'm second from the youngest.
Okay.
And I didn't tell anybody the things that were going on because I was confused. I was 9 years old. And I didn't know, and I loved my father, but I didn't understand. So what in my family you brush everything under the rug. You don't talk about anything bad. Anything bad or problems we brush, you have to look like this perfect family, which we did look like, but behind the scenes. So I'm going to tell you right now what was really going on. And I didn't find this out till I was an adult. My mother, I thought my mom and dad were married, and my mother was my dad's secretary. And he was married to a woman in Grosse Pointe with 4 sons in the yacht club and just that whole
Was that
upper class.
Those were his kids as well?
Yes.
Oh
my mother was an affair, which we didn't know, and she babysat for him and his wife. Well, when he had 5 girls with her, and we lived in Macomb County, and he kept it secret. So I didn't know. I thought my mom and dad were married, and I have this happy little family. And no, so when my mom died, my dad could not raise 5 girls. He had another family in Grosse Pointe. So he had to tell his wife, and she moved in to raise us.
Oh,
is that the craziest story?
Gosh.
None of us knew this at the time, but I always wondered why my brothers didn't treat us well. We were the other children. And my stepmother, although treated me well, never loved me. We were her husband's affair children. And she had to come in, sell her house in Grosse Pointe. They sold their house, moved into Macomb County. And every picture of my mother was gone. We weren't allowed to talk about my mother.
Oh, my gosh.
So what does that do to a child of 9 years old, 10 years old? So I didn't find this out till I was out of college. But it explains so much as why we didn't feel loved, why we felt icky for no reason. It wasn't our fault.
No.
So all that went on. And in the meantime, I was a good girl. I got all A's in high school. I was a cheerleader, ran track. I went to Western Michigan University. But in the meantime, stuffing all of this sick, bad stuff. And so I get to college, and my dad was very strict with us. I wasn't allowed to date. We had to be in by street lights. So I get to college, and there's no rules. So I found alcohol, and I found something to take away the pain, the confusion. And I drank too much in college. I probably would have done a lot better had I not. But everybody was doing it, so I didn't think it was a problem because everybody was drinking crazy. But I didn't like drinking because the hangovers, I didn't like the taste of alcohol, but it numbed me. So when I got out of college and I married my high school sweetheart, and started a family. Well, I found drugs. And
How does that happen?
let me tell you, I remember the day it happened. I wasn't a drug user, and I didn't even smoke marijuana. I go to a party, and they're doing lines on the table, and I said, "Oh, let me have one of those," thinking it's cocaine. And they said, "Oh, it's not cocaine. This is heroin." And I'm like, "Well, you're just snorting it." And I'm thinking, heroin, that's like a junkie in an alley with a needle. That can't be that bad. Let me try it. Nobody forced me to do anything. I was like, and as soon as I did it, Alexandria, I knew this is the happy substance I've been looking for my whole life. And I knew it. I held it together for a very long time. I worked. I raised a family. I have 3 sons. Meanwhile, being a full-blown heroin addict.
So did your husband know?
He did. I got him using because I needed his money to support it. So how horrible that sounds, but I introduced it to him. So we both became heroin addicts and held it together for a very long time. I was snorting it, so I wasn't using needles yet, which I set down 3 rules for me when I started drugs. I was never going to sell my body for drugs. I was never going to use needles, and I was never going to take my children to a dope house. Well, flash forward, I ended up using needles, and I brought my kids to the dope house, and I never resorted to the third, selling my body. Not that I'm judging anybody, because I just had money. When you have money, it's very easy to not have to do those extreme things. And so my husband got off the heroin, and I could not. And he tried and he tried. You know, I've been to rehab 5 times, but it was always forced by either family, a judge, parole agent. I never chose it. I went and did the 90 days, did what I had to do, and never lasted a couple weeks. When I
think it's kind of hard though, and I think about this when I hear people who have addictions, or even just getting out of jail, they put them in a halfway house back into the same environment that
absolutely
caused this issue.
When I got out of prison, my parole officer, my family was done with me. And I have a pretty big family, fairly close with my sisters anyway. My parole officer puts me in a 3-quarter house with 5 men. Now, mind you, I'm not with my husband anymore, and he has the kids, but I have to go to this 3-quarter house. And I get to this 3-quarter house, and they're all using. So I was happy I lasted 2 weeks, and then I was done, and I was codependent. So I got with one of the guys, and then sure enough, went off to the races on heroin again. And I struggled for 25 years with a heroin addiction, and ruined my marriage, ruined my relationship with my children. Although I have that back today, thank God I have that back today, because what kept me sick was the guilt and the shame and the regret of what I became versus what I should have become.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was smart, and I knew that I wasn't this person I had turned into, but I turned into her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And doing all the things, I always say this, drugs made me do things I never wanted to do, taught me things I never wanted to learn, and showed me things I never wanted to see, but it did. And living in trap houses, and I had that, I've had so many different lives in this one life I have. Growing up, very going to 5-star restaurants in the country club and all that, going on lavish vacations. And then a middle-class marriage with my husband, and homeless, completely broke, poor, drug-addicted homeless, prison, which, let me tell you, that's a whole different life in itself. And then now I don't have the lavish things I used to. I have my little used car and my little house, but I'm happier today than I have ever been in my entire life. And that's because you get the mental health treated as to why I became a drug addict.
Donna, wow.
Isn't that just crazy?
Like, first off, I have to say, so I first saw your story on Facebook, right? So saw your story on Facebook. It was a paragraph, and I said, I need to talk to her. I need her on this podcast. Fast forward, I listened to the conversation with you and Christiana. None of this came up.
No, because I have so much.
Just completely, I have my questions ready, but I'm like, wow.
There's so much to my story that, and people
layered.
It's no wonder why I became a drug addict, because I had nobody to talk to. My mother had been gone for a long time, and my sisters found out later that 2 of them were sexually mistreated too by my father, and I didn't know that. Secrets keep you sick.
Yeah.
And we don't have coping skills as children. And if you're not taught how to deal or how to process, you end up turning to substances because they numb you. You know, for 20 years, I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was nothing. I was just existing. And, you know, the guilt and shame of not being with my children kept me sick for the last 10 years of my addiction, which was pure misery.
Yeah.
I wasn't having any fun. Trust me on that. I was covering up because as soon as I got sober, the pain of my children who live 5 miles from me and I don't see them, I got to get high. I can't think about this. You're covering up all those powerful feelings. And until I got to the point where this was my rock bottom. Mother's Day happened, and my sons always texted or called me on Mother's Day, even though they knew that I was sick. They were in their late teens, early 20s. I have 3 sons, and they knew that I was on drugs, but they would still call me on Mother's Day or check up on me to make sure I was okay. Mother's Day happened in 2017, and nobody texted or called me. And I broke down and, of course, kept getting high because I just have to justify I got to go to work. I have to support this habit that I have, a $200 a day habit. And
that's an expensive
it's
habit.
a very expensive habit because I was using Adderall too. And so that's sort of a form of methamphetamine salts. So it was just existing. So after Mother's Day, I was so just down. And I said, I don't even want to live anymore. And I don't think I wanted to die, but I didn't care if I did. So one night, just thinking about my children, I loaded up a syringe with enough that was going to kill me. And I had that in one hand and my phone, my cell phone. And I was either going to end it all or call my sister, who I hadn't talked to in a very long time. And I threw the syringe and I called my sister crying. And this is my older sister who had a life like I did, kind of. Not drugs and alcohol or prison. She had the abuse. And I called her crying. And I said, the 3 words that saved my life is I need help. And I had never asked for help. She was over my house, got me into treatment the next day. And I'm 8 years clean and sober, 8.5 years clean and sober today from that moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you, honey. It means a lot to me because I couldn't stay clean for 8 minutes, 8 days. So this 8.5 years. And, you know, my family, I'm so close with my family, my sisters, that they're my family and my children are back in my life. But, you know, the mental health part of it, when I got to Saginaw, they're like, well, at Emmaus House, you have to see a therapist. And I'm like, I'm not on medication. I don't need a therapist. There's nothing wrong with me. And boy, was I wrong. Talking to a therapist is so cleansing and freeing. And telling my story like I do now, so that if one person hears it, and if I can help one person get to a point in life where not only are you happy, but you're free of your demons. Your past doesn't beat you up anymore. Then that makes all it worth it. And that's why I love doing these, because somebody out there might be going through what I was. And, you know, you don't even need a therapist, recovery coach. My recovery coach saved me because she had been where I'd been. And who best can understand what you're going through but somebody who's been where you've been.
Who's had the lived experience.
And so my recovery coach, and I became a certified recovery coach. Okay. And I love recovery coaching because I identify with these women. These women are me. And even men, you know, it doesn't matter. Men and women are very different. We're more emotional and men are more ego. But
it's emotion too.
Right, it's emotion too. They just don't want to show it.
Yeah.
But recovery is recovery. And you have to have healthy people, not only to listen to you, to support you, give you some suggestions on how they got through it.
So much here, so much to unpack. It was so much coming to my head as you were talking.
I told you, when I get talking, you got to cut me off.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So take me a little bit back as far as the marriage, right?
Yes.
You get him on it, but he comes out of it.
My ex-husband is so strong. We've been together since 16 years old. Now, we did break up when I went to college, and we ended up getting back and getting married. I've hurt him so much. I get teary-eyed because I love him, and I know he loves me. But I hurt him so much coming in and out of his life. And, you know, my 2 sons that I had with him. But I also left him and got pregnant and had a third son with somebody else. And he still was rooting for me. And, he's very strong and he's very stubborn. So when he was done with heroin, he put it down. He never went to rehab. I've been to 6 rehabs that, he didn't need to, but he switched to alcohol. So a lot of addicts and alcoholics, you'll switch to a different substance. Yeah. Today, he is clean and sober. No alcohol, no drugs. He even quit smoking, which is beautiful.
So good.
But I hurt him so much in our marriage, and that's one of my regrets, one of my many regrets. It doesn't eat me up today, but, we still have a family. It's not like it was, for sure.
Were you able to share some of the things that you just shared with me? Were you able to share that with him, that he had some understanding of why you were
probably
using?
Not in the depth that we're doing, but we always talked and stayed friends until now. He's mad that I got married again, and he's hurt. So he's not speaking to me right now. I'm hopeful that we're going, because we've been friends my whole life. And so right now he's a little angry because I got married. We both said we would never remarry, but never say never, because I found a wonderful man. And I dated him for 6 years before I got married. But he's angry with me. So we're not talking right now, but I try. I try. And I've hurt him so much in my life that I want to repair what short life we have left. I want him in my life, but once again, he needs therapy. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh. We all do. I'll be honest with you. I truly think everybody does need a therapist.
I agree.
I will agree with that statement through 100%. And through. It helped me. I completely agree.
It's that impartial person to listen and hopefully have some suggestions or some insight, but you just feel better because you're getting, and this I repeat a lot because it's true. If you keep everything stuffed inside, right, it's garbage. What happens when you don't take the garbage out? It's toxic. It'll make you sick. Just getting it out is so, it doesn't fix everything. It makes the load easier to carry, but you've got to get it out to somebody.
Yes.
Whether it be a therapist or a best friend or a recovery coach or a sponsor, but you've got to get that stuff out to somebody you trust, that you just feel better.
I read something about that too, that what you're talking about is when, especially with women, they're finding, and I don't know, you have to Google the research, but apparently women are developing autoimmune disorders or diseases because of the stress that they're holding on to.
Yep, it creates anxiety, worry, stress. You've got to get that out. And I love that I don't have that. I don't have any shame or guilt. I still have regrets today. You always have regrets, but they don't eat me up today. Today, I just make it better. My children, I always... if one thing, I'm not a crier. I don't cry very easy. But when it comes to my sons, and I always, when I get talking with them, and they're men, they don't want to talk about the emotional stuff, but I make them. They're like, Mom, the past is in the past. We have our whole future. And I love that. And I always want to explain to them, they don't do drugs. They are very responsible. I did one thing right. I raised 3 fine young men who are respectful and are good people. So if I beat myself up all the time about what I did bad, but what I did good had a hand in raising these 3 fine young men. So that makes me feel better because they're like, we don't care about the past. It's in the past. You can't fix it. All we can do is fix now.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
This episode is brought to you by the Saginaw County Health Department, delivering groundbreaking work in community health transformation and collaborating with Be Well Saginaw partners to make Saginaw one of Michigan's top 25 healthiest communities. Learn more at saginawpublichealth.org. One question that I did have regarding, I know the marriage has now dissolved, but was there anything that anyone could have said to you that would have or made you come around to getting yourself help?
Well, and
or
I try not to do.
The moment
well, I try not to do the woulda, shoulda, couldas because there's a lot of things that should have been my bottom. Prison should have been my bottom. I'd never been in trouble my whole life. Like I never even had a misdemeanor. I went straight to the felonies, and all the woulda, shoulda, couldas today, I wouldn't be sitting here. if I hadn't gone to prison. I wouldn't be sitting here, So I try not to do them, but I wish there would have been a place like Emmaus House for me back 20 years ago, because I had small children to raise. And I was always worried about if I go to rehab, what am I going to do with my kids? My husband works, which were all just excuses because my family would have helped. But had there been rehab is great. Rehab is necessary. But my problem was I went back home every time after rehab to the same people, the same places, the same toxic things, and I couldn't get well. And I'm a huge believer that you cannot heal in the environment in which you were sick. So this last time I went, when rehab said 21 days, you're done, you can go home. I said, I can't go home. I know what's going to happen if I go home. And they said, well, try this place. And they hand me a brochure. It says the Emmaus House. And I said, I don't have any money. They said, it's free. I said, how long can you stay? They said, there's no time limit. I said, send me there. Send me. So my family was all like, you want more treatment? I said, yes.
I mean, but that seems like the most reasonable or logical thing to do with people who go through rehab. Why would you think to just send them home? Why
because there's nowhere to put them. Now in Macomb County, they don't have resources.
They don't have any
Midland,
type of recovery house?
This whole mid-state region here has a lot more resources than they do down in Macomb County. They have a lot of toxic three-quarter houses, but they don't have a sober living like maybe they do now. It's been a long time, but Emmaus House, you have such support there that when you walk in the door, I already know how you feel. And I'm like, oh, relax, because I know how you feel. I went through Emmaus House. The support, the love, the forgiveness, and people believe in you. It inspires you to be like, okay, here's my people. I've been searching for you my whole life. I found my people because the women there are just like me.
Yeah.
Well, I always hid my addiction, and I'm the only one of all my dad's 9 children to do drugs and go to jail and go to prison. So I hid everything from everybody, my work. So when I finally got to Emmaus House, I didn't have to hide anything anymore. Women understood, they got it. It's a very, very beautiful feeling when you find your people. And I only hang out with people in recovery generally. As the further I'm going, I have a lot of professional friends that I adore. But I don't go to concerts or bars. That's not my life anymore. So when I do go with my family, they all drink and party. I'm safe because it's my family. But I watch who I hang out with. I can't go out with, I call them the normies, because there's nothing wrong with them. They can have a few drinks. If I start a few drinks, I'm going to end up in jail or homeless. We're different. So I have to watch where I go and who I hang out with because it's just my new life. I love my new life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Sure, I'd like to have a glass of wine on New Year's Eve, but I can't. Because like I said, you got bail money for me the next day because I'll be drinking 3 days later. And even though I don't like drinking, I'm an addict. I'm an addict, alcoholic. I haven't had alcohol
So
really.
you would still identify as that, even though you've been sober for 8 years?
Because I can never have alcohol, even though I haven't had alcohol really since college. I didn't like drinking, but I know, and somebody said it to me once, well, why would you drink? Because I said when I got clean and sober, well, I'm not an alcoholic. I could have a drink. And they're like, oh, do you like the taste of alcohol? I'm like, no. Do you like the after effects? No. Why would you drink? For the effect. It's my escape. Today, I don't need to escape. I don't. And more power to people who like a glass of wine. And sure, it'd be nice to have a glass of wine, but I'm not looking for an escape. I like my clear-headed mind and my decisions that I make clean and sober. I make bad decisions when I'm using drugs and alcohol, as most of us do.
Yeah.
I like my good decisions, and I love that my kids trust me today. So there's nothing that would make me risk going back to old Donna. Old Donna's still here, but I've got her under control today.
This is, I was not expecting.
I'm so glad.
No,
I like
seriously, before I even have these conversations, I'm always praying honestly before I'm even sitting down, because I want to show up and ask the right questions, but I also want people to feel comfortable enough to share.
Right.
And so I am just so grateful that you are sharing such
deep stuff. But it's okay because it's healing.
It is.
It's healing. And I don't care. The people that judge are not my people. My people don't judge. And, there's a stigma that goes along with people with felonies and have been to prison. Well, I'm one of them. And I'm pretty proud of who I am today. And I like who I am today. I haven't liked myself in a long time in my addiction. And I like who I am today. And that's through therapy and NA and AA and finding people who are willing to listen to you without judgment.
One thing that I was hearing when you were talking about your childhood and discovering your father's infidelity, your mom passing away, and I don't know, it's just what I kept hearing was like hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something happened along the lines where your dad felt that he could hurt his wife, right? He hurt his wife.
He didn't care. He was very self-absorbed and self-centered, but inside probably, like you said, hurt.
Yeah.
Hurt people.
Something happened along the lines that you created this ripple effect of hurt. Mm-hmm. And then this is what it produced. But I think the beauty of it, like you said, you can go from ashes to this beautiful story.
You can. And one of the key things is forgiveness.
Mm.
You're not going to
expound on that, because you mentioned that in Christiana's story.
It's very important.
And what stuck out to me was when you said you needed to forgive your mom for passing away.
Yes.
So expound on that.
I was angry at her. And normally today I'm a very forgiving person. I have a very forgiving heart. I really do. And I don't hold grudges today. But that little girl, I was angry with my mom for leaving with a father who did what he did, and my mom knowing that he has a whole nother family in Grosse Pointe, and yet you're going to die without letters to us or make some plans for us. And that, sorry to say, piece of what is going to raise us, when she knew how he was. So I was angry with my mom. But with forgiving, we're human. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's taught your parents how to be good parents. They probably needed a therapist. As it would go back to that. But forgiving them sets you free. And what was hard for me to understand, as I always said, my father doesn't deserve forgiveness. It's not for him. The forgiveness is for me to let it go and heal. And you can't heal when you're angry and full of resentments. And I finally figured it out. Forgiveness sets you free. Instead of hanging on to all this anger and being miserable for what? The other person's not. It's like a punishment you give yourself for other people's actions. Mm-hmm. And so I am so quick to forgive. It took me a long time to forgive myself for what I did to my children and did to them, meaning I left. I would come and go. And I thought, well, their dad's got money. They're happy. They can have whatever they want. They don't need me. And they did.
But think about just hearing that and just thinking about your mom.
Right.
I
did the same thing my mom did, although I didn't die, but I disappeared at the same age around that they were. How ironic is that? As much as I needed my mother and I hated her for leaving, I did the same thing to my sons.
That's when I listened to that conversation in the podcast, I was like, oh, she repeated the behavior.
I repeated the cycle. Yeah. And as much as it hurt me, and I did, but I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's why when there are cycles and generations of substance use, abuse, it happens. And I'm so glad that I broke that cycle. But looking back, how could I leave my sons? At the same age was my mom left, and now I didn't want to go to prison, but I was doing behaviors that sent me to prison. You'd think I wouldn't have risked that, knowing what it did to me, but I wasn't in the right mindset because I was on drugs. So you're very selfish on drugs. It's all about getting high, numbing, so I don't have to feel. I don't want to feel all this stuff, this garbage that I feel. If somebody would have taught me that talking to somebody and getting it out would heal me, maybe none of this would have happened. Yeah. But then I wouldn't be sitting here with you today.
Wow. Yes, that is exactly. And I love the story about forgiveness, because I felt convicted too. When I was younger, my dad passed away days after I was born. Oh. And it wasn't until middle school that I realized that I was angry at him for dying. And I'm like, what? It was like this.
Like they wanted to. Yeah. As kids though, you don't get that.
No.
And I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep. So I understood exactly what you meant, and people out there who may still have their parents living, they may not understand that. But when you are a child and your parent dies, you don't realize that you're really walking around angry at them.
And nobody tells you about grief and how to process grief. In my family, shove it under the rug. We didn't even talk about my mother anymore. So all that grief gets bottled up. Yep. No coping skills, no release. And you can only get filled up with so much garbage. And here come the drugs and alcohol, where it's like, oh, okay, I can deal with life like this. And in actuality, I was ruining my life, but you don't see it like that. I'm just medicating to not feel the pain. Today, I have forgiven my father. I'll never forget. What he did changed me forever. I can never go back to that innocence. But you know what? That's life. And my favorite thing to say is it is what it is, because I can't hop in a time machine and go change what happened to me.
Yeah.
I can't hop in a time machine and go fix that I left my children. I have to accept it, move forward, and know that I'm a better me today because of it, because I learned by my mistakes.
So talk to me about being the executive director of Emmaus House.
I love my job. You know how people say if you love what you do, you never have to work another day in your life? It says it all. I don't get up for work. I get up for life. When you are helping women to save their lives, women who are just like me, it's not work. I just go to my life. That's my life today. If somebody would have been there when I was 20, 25 to help guide me, maybe I wouldn't have had to go through all the wreckage and misery that I did. But if I can stop these women from making all the mistakes that I made, I'm surely going to try. You know, we have such a great success rate because my whole staff is in recovery. My assistant, Jennifer, she was an alcoholic for 20 some years. My residential manager, who takes care of all the women's needs, she was cocaine. She was the streets of Flint, smoking crack, and me, the heroin addict. So our girls can identify, whatever substance they were using. My staff, I would not want to do my job. I have a very, very competent staff that we have fun every day. We laugh at Emmaus House every day. We have 30 women, and I have 5 houses in Saginaw.
Okay.
And for house 1 is where they start. For 30 days, they come to us from treatment, jail, or prison, and they can't go anywhere for 30 days. They have to acclimate. They have to see if they want it. Because if you don't want to get clean and sober, nothing's going to work. And I know that firsthand. If you want it, we're here to help you every step of the way. And after 30 days, if they can stay clean and sober, if they can follow our rules, which we have rules. When you're using drugs on the streets and crime, there's no rules.
Yeah.
Well, you come into recovery, we have to have rules. And if they prove that for the first 30 days, then we move them to house 2. In house 2, let the rope out a little bit. You're out allowed after 3:30 to 9:30 is curfew.
Okay.
And that's enough time to go to a movie or out to dinner. And you can do an overnight pass. And so slowly we let the rope out some more. And after another 60 days, we move you out in the houses in the community, and you get a job, save money, go back to school. They have to be working on a goal. We're not, you can't retire at Emmaus House.
Yeah.
You have to be moving forward on a goal. So whether it's working with CPS in front of the court to get visitation or get your kids back, some of our women qualify for Social Security disability. Some of them apply for that. But most of them get a part-time job and start saving money for their future and remaining clean and sober.
So where are these women coming from? Are they from Saginaw as well?
Some are from Saginaw. We don't have a real good rehab in Saginaw, and I'm hoping that's changing soon. So we take from Midland, 1016, which I'm a huge fan of. 1016 in Midland is one of the best rehabs in the mid-state area. We take from Harbor Hall on the west side of the state, Bear River on the west side of the state, Meridian, which is in Waterford. We take from anywhere, but here's the good thing. People are like, well, why aren't you helping Saginaw? We do have women from Saginaw, but we go back to that. It's hard to heal.
That's what I was thinking.
In the environment in which you were sick. Not that it's not impossible. Yeah. It's possible. But our women that come from other counties are staying in Saginaw. So we get them clean and sober and get some work training and job training. They end up staying in Saginaw, being clean and sober, productive members of the community. 2 of my ladies are now working at Underground Railroad.
Wow.
3 of my past guests are at Women of Colors. I have 2 of my ex-guests are at New Paths in Flint. This is all recovery. Yeah. So they're now all not only clean and sober, helping to save women like us, but also off government assistance, which is a goal of mine. Government assistance is necessary for a period of time to get you through a rough period or to get you through a place where you're independent, but it's not meant to be lived on forever. So my women that all are out there now that I'm speaking of are all off of, they don't have a bridge card anymore. They're getting their own health insurance. So we're getting off government assistance and they're staying in Saginaw and becoming productive members, which boosts our economy in Saginaw.
So I'm curious because you said it's free for them to be there. So where is the support coming from? Is this just grants, people writing
we don't have
checks?
any government funding.
Okay.
And I don't like government funding only because then they're going to tell you how to run your program. We like our program. Our women go to church. Well, if you take federal money, they're going to say you can't make your ladies go to church. Well, we like going to church. My ladies enjoy church. Church is healthy, positive message, good people. So we are run strictly on foundation and religious grants and by the generosity of our private community. A lot of our churches are our biggest supporters in Midland, too. I have to mention Blessed Sacrament because they do a lot for us, and they're here in Midland. We have we apply for grants. We do a newsletter quarterly, which a lot of our private citizens, that's how we get money in. But, you know, I'm in the red most of the time, but we make it with God's. And I know we have so many God moments. Sister Marietta Fritz, who created Emmaus House in 1987, has passed away since. But I feel her presence. She was a genius to come up with the idea that she came up with for Emmaus House because it stopped. She wanted to stop the revolving door of jail. She worked jail ministry.
Yeah.
And the women would get out of jail, and if you have nowhere to go, what do? You go back to what you know.
Yep.
Crimes, drug, homelessness. So she created it to stop that. We have since restructured it into more of a school for recovery, mental health, and substance use. So our ladies have to see a therapist once a week. They have to do 2 recovery groups or self-esteem groups. We have codependency groups. We have groups going on all week. They have to do 2 a week, and they have to do a 12-step meeting every day. That is a requirement of our program, and the 7 hours that they volunteer pays their rent. So we don't bill any insurance. We don't collect any money. What we do, we're able to do with the generosity of this Tri-City area because we have Bay City supporting us, Midland, and Saginaw. And I couldn't do it without our religious groups. They're huge. But now we have some sororities and fraternities who step up in Christmas time especially.
Yeah.
So we have a very, very generous community.
This is so amazing. I'm so happy to be having this conversation. I didn't say it in this on the camera, but I told you how I learned about Emmaus House. A friend of mine who is a social worker, I said, where can I drop off my clothes? I don't want to drop it off at these other places. Right. Where can I drop off clothes that I know people will just take right away?
People that need them.
People that need them. And she was like, oh, go to Emmaus House. And I was like, okay, where's it at? And so that was my first interaction with the building. But this is so,
our store,
I'm learning so much right now.
It sits on our property in our little compound, and our ladies get job training in there. They work their volunteer hours there, and they get a work responsibility. A lot of my ladies have never had a real job. So they learn how to stay off your phones at work and deal respectfully with the public. But everything in our store is free to anybody. We are open Monday through Friday from 9 until 3:15, except Tuesdays. Tuesdays, all the ladies go to Walmart and do their shopping. So Tuesdays we close at 11:30, but we take donations all day. Anybody can shop there. We have men's stuff, children's stuff, women's stuff, purses, shoes, books, toys, everything. And we're blessed to get donations every single day. Wow. So it's kind of like just this well-oiled machine that runs itself because we don't pay any employees. The ladies work their volunteer hours. And we're helping out our community Emmaus House sits in a very poverty-stricken, crime-ridden area. But we're helping a community that needs it. And the community takes care of us because we're taking care of them. It's a two-way street. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm glad you brought clothes over.
Yes, I just brought them. I took another load. I think it was last week.
Oh, you did?
Yep, I did.
And the girls are really gracious, and they come out and unload you. Yeah. And if you ever come in, and if anybody ever shops there, our girls are happy. There's smiles. There's laughter. They're getting used to a new life without crime, drugs, alcohol, and it's an adjustment. But to hear the laughter, and I love when people come to Emmaus House. And they walk in and they're like, "Oh, I feel the love here," and that's a compliment
yeah.
because it's true. We eat lunch together. Each house well, house 1 and 2 eat dinner together. The rest of the house's girls are working and stuff. But family style dinners are very important. And it's a sisterhood. You know, they have women who aren't going to judge them, and they have forgiveness. You know, I know people make mistakes. I've made mistakes. You know, if you don't make mistakes, you're not growing and learning. And I tell them that every day. My mistakes today are a lot better than they used to be.
Yes. This is so amazing. Tell them how they can find out more about Emmaus House, their phone number, address.
Absolutely.
Please let them know.
If you can, go on our website, because my bookkeeper now is running the website, and she's so good at it. And there's all the pictures of the ladies and all the information on upcoming fundraisers. It's www.emmaushousesaginaw.com. Also, we are on Facebook. And if you want to donate, or if you know somebody that needs help, our phone number is 989-755-7538. We are located in downtown Saginaw, 733 South 14th Street. Our store is right there. So if you need things and you're struggling right now or don't have money for Christmas, come, because everything in our store is free to anybody who wants to shop.
Yes. Thank you, Donna. I want to ask you, because you said when they go to Emmaus House, there is no time limit, right? So have you ever seen anyone who was afraid to leave the house?
Absolutely.
And how do they overcome that? How do you help them navigate that?
Well, and I take that back. There's no time limit as long as you're working on goals. You can't stay and just live for free. You have to be doing something. Generally, women stay between a year and 2 years. And they do have that fear. But I tell them this: to have a healthy fear when you leave is healthy, because don't get overconfident. We're addicts and alcoholics. We're one day away from a bad decision, and we'll be addicts for the rest of our lives. So don't get overconfident. I got this. I'm not afraid. It is good to have a healthy fear. It keeps you on guard, because our addiction is real and it's powerful, and it can get you, especially when you're scared or lonely or bored. It can creep right in. And like I said, that one bad choice, protect that split-second decision. We have to do that the rest of our lives, because we know the one way we can feel better. And it's the wrong answer. But us addicts, when things get tough, that's when you need people. But we stay in contact with them. So when they move out, we help furnish their apartment. And
wow, that's amazing.
the other day, 4 ex-guests all came to visit, to hang out. That's a compliment, because it's tough living in community living at times. And, you know, you've got 30 women with 30 different personalities. So it becomes monotonous some days. But to have 4 ex-guests come in one day just to visit and hang out, I love it. So they know that they're always a part of our family. But they do have a fear. Sometimes we have to nudge them. They want to stay in their comfort bubble, you know, the comfort zone. But that's not the purpose of Emmaus House. I would love, you know, for them to stay in the bubble and protect them. But you can't, because you're not. This is an independent program teaching you how to live on your own, substance free. So there's a few we have to nudge, but they can call us anytime. They come back and visit. They can attend our groups anytime. The door is always open for them to come visit. And they do, which is beautiful. That's how I know all the successes of these past ladies who stayed in our program for a year or two. They come back all the time.
This was an amazing conversation.
You should come to Emmaus House for a tour.
I am now.
I'll give you a tour.
I did not know. That's all I can say. I did not know.
When people, even in Saginaw, what's Emmaus House? I never heard of it. I'm like, how have you not heard of this beautiful, necessary place? Because it's saving lives every day. But that's why I do these things with wonderful people like you, because it gets it out there that there's help for people who want it. Yeah. But you have to want it.
You have to want it.
You have to want it.
And it's right there in our community. It's in Saginaw, Emmaus House. If you know someone who needs recovery,
give us a call. We'll guide you what you need to do for us to get whoever needs the help to us. Because you can't come off the streets. You have to come from a facility, but we can help you do that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Donna.
You are welcome. I had a great time.
Thank you.